Ashley Parker from the Washington Post has rejoined us now. Ashley, I want to ask you about something that candidate Biden ran on the whole time, saying it was his relationships in the Senate. That's what he was going to bank on to be able to stop the gridlock in Washington and push things through. When it comes to some of these key legislative items right now, what do we know about how much he's doing behind the scenes, who he's calling, and what he's saying?
Well, one thing that came up in the briefing today that was somewhat surprising was that his team has been tasked with a lot of outreach. So you had Brian Deese talking about reaching out to a bipartisan group of mayors, talking about an upcoming call on Sunday with a group of 16 Democratic and Republican senators. But it is unclear, for instance, exactly what that personal touch Biden promised is happening and when we're really going to see it. And one sign that is potentially disconcerting for the Biden folks is that if you look at his big ticket items that Anna was just discussing, and you look at some of the Republicans who you would expect for him to get, and frankly, you absolutely need for him to get someone like Senator Susan Collins, someone like Senator Mitt Romney, even they are already expressing some skepticism and reluctance to key portions of his COVID relief bill. And so these calls for unity are aspirational and they are important, but he is going to have to find a way to go beyond simply that to actually make these bipartisan connections and muscle something through Congress.
Errin, when you look at the calls for unity, they're complicated somewhat by the calls for accountability, especially after the insurrection earlier in January. And there's a real divide, we should point out, within Republicans. You have someone like Mitch McConnell who has accused Trump of provoking that insurrection. Then you have the #3 House Republican Liz Cheney voting to impeach the president. What is the thinking behind this divide in the Republican Party right now, Errin?
Well, Amna, with President Trump out of office, the future of the Republican Party and the direction that they are going to go in is very much in question. I mean, you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, in the wake of Joe Biden being inaugurated, calling for his impeachment, and you have. Folks like another freshman, Lori Berbert, who is wanting to carry a gun onto the House floor. So that really seems at odds with some other Republicans who tried to strike maybe a more conciliatory tone, if not a tone that felt disingenuous, frankly, to some Democrats that I spoke to, given their role in kind of stoking the claims of a rigged election that a lot of folks say did fuel the events of January 6th. And so again, these are lawmakers that are coming to work with colleagues that they do not trust right now. Given the events of January 6th, the fact that there was an insurrection and questions of whether some of their coworkers were involved in that insurrection or aided that insurrection in some way. And so, while the impeachment trial has been put off by a couple of weeks, and we don't know what that will do to kind of cool folks' temperaments on that. This is something that still is out there, that still is unresolved. Not just for the American people, but also for these lawmakers that have to find a way forward together, and how they do that without addressing the events of that day is really unclear.
And Anna, I should mention, I failed to mention earlier, of course, Kevin McCarthy has said that impeachment is a non-starter, that it just works to further divide the country. That's the divide for the GOP right now. But what about Democrats? Very briefly, is there a political consequence for them if they don't work towards accountability?
I mean, I think this impeachment question is going to hang over them for the next couple of weeks until it goes to the Senate. I don't see enough Republicans coming on board for that at this point. You see a lot more Republicans questioning whether it's constitutional to try to impeach a former president and not a sitting president. The concept of accountability for Democrats, I think, is going to be, to Laura's point, around what the progressives want. That is where the energy of this party is. That is who got Joe Biden elected, and they want change. We had 4 years of Republicans and Donald Trump doing things their way. I feel like it is time for Democrats to move forward with their agenda and stop worrying about whether or not Mitch McConnell's going to come along for the ride.
Ashley, when you look at the impeachment schedule ahead right now, it looks like Mitch McConnell got that delayed timeline. It looks like it will not begin the trial in the Senate until about February 9th. What did Democrats get in return?
Well, Joe Biden was asked sort of in general terms about that timeline, and he seemed to imply that he's happy for that as well. He's happy to have, as he said, a little extra time to get his government up and running. The Biden White House kept on saying, and it is technically true, that senators can do two things at once. They can, chew gum and hold an impeachment trial, or chew gum and confirm the president's nominees. But what Democrats got in some ways was also more time to push through some of Biden's cabinet nominees.
Mm-hmm. So we see now the Biden administration working hard to get underway. I can't thank the four of you enough for joining me. That is all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us on this inauguration week, and thank you to our incredible reporters, Laura Barron-Lopez, Errin Haines, Anna Palmer, and Ashley Parker. To end this week's show, a little bit of hope as America begins to write her next chapter. Here now from the inauguration is Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman.
We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.